The poem "The Abandoned British Cemetery" at Balasore describes the author's reflections upon entering a cemetery in which a large number of Britishers lay buried, but which was now deserted because of a lapse of a long period of time of about 150 years. The poem refers to a historical incident. A number of British lives were lost on account of the outbreak of cholera at Balasore, and their dead bodies were buried in the graves in a specially selected piece of ground, which thus became a cemetery or a graveyard. The poem opens with the words, "This is history," meaning that's what the poet is witnessing and brings to his mind a historical incident. Then the poet says that he would not disturb it, meaning that he would not go much further into the cemetery because he would not like to disturb the graves wherein the dead lay buried. The tombs in this cemetery are now in a state of ruin. One can, of course, see the stone and the marble which had been used in building the tombs, but which have now almost crumbled because of the passage of time. The poet then asks himself how he should behave at the present moment while standing in this cemetery where lie the dead belonging to a time long past. He uses the word archaic, meaning ancient, because a long, long time has passed since these persons were buried here. It was 150 years back that the incident happened. It is quite possible that the poet, instead of living in the present times, might himself have lived in those days when this incident occurred. But now he stands here and sees only grass, bushes, thorns, and weeds around him. Nor does it matter that he did not personally know those who were buried here. What difference does it make to him who buried of cholera in those days and who survived? In spite of his attitude of indifference towards who died and who survived, the poet yet feels awed by the thought of the dead persons who were buried here and who have been forgotten because of the passage of time. He walks around the various graves, of which there are 39. In other words, 39 persons died of cholera and were buried here. His entering this cemetery cannot bring the dead back to life. His presence here cannot stir the remains of the dead persons. There is silence all around him, though a lean lizard is closely watching what goes on, and though there is a scorpion resting upon one of the tombs on which the name of the dead person is inscribed. The poet then reads the names of the dead persons inscribed on the tombstones. A tombstone is a slab of marble planted on the head of a grave to indicate who lies buried here, the dates of birth and death of the person concerned, and certain other particulars are also inscribed on a tombstone. The poet reads the name of Florence, who is described on the tombstone as the darling wife of an army captain. She was just 19 at the time of her death, and she had died of cholera. Then he reads the name of Helen, the beloved daughter of a British couple. She was just 17 when she died of the same epidemic. The British were at the time the rulers of India, which was a part of British Empire. But now that empire does not exist any longer, and the poet says that the vanished British Empire is of no concern of his. It does not matter to him if his remote ancestors had lived as the subjects of the British imperialists. What he is concerned with are the deaths of the young persons who lie buried here and the young persons who die even nowadays of one cause or another. It is the deaths of the young people which move the human heart deeply and which bring to surface the feelings and emotions lying dormant in the depths of the human heart. Cholera still breaks out and kills young people. When it breaks out, it travels rapidly and powerfully, bringing about ruin and destruction. It is as sharp and cruel as iron. It may remain in abeyance like iron, which is allowed to remain at one place and rust. But its menace or threat never ceases. Those who die leave behind a memory of their deaths. Death seems to smile as the victims die. Seeing a heavy piece of timber lying close to the graves, the poet says that the force of the earth's gravity would continue always to operate upon this piece of timber. This heavy piece of timber, or anger as it may be called, might in course of time acquire a certain sanctity in the eyes of the people. By virtue of its very ancientness, this anger might one day be treated as a deity and as an object of worship. This anger would keep history alive by reminding people of the deaths which had taken place long, long ago, and this anger would disallow the survivors to speak and make their existence known to others. In other words, this anger would act not only as a source of some historical information but also as a forbidding power.